Hello, and welcome to the Evolution Podcast with Mac and Jen. We are so excited to be here. Today we are going to ask Mac some questions regarding relationships, and I'm so excited to hear his answers.
Yep. So I haven't seen these questions yet. She just came up with them. So we're going to see how this goes. We're just going to go off the fly and see what comes up. So,
All right, you ready for the first question?
yep, I'm ready.
Okay. What is the number one thing you think it takes to have a healthy and thriving relationship?
That's a big question. So, the number one thing that it takes, the number one, you know, the number one thing that it takes to have a healthy, thriving relationship is and this is a broad statement. It's not like you say one thing and you go after but it's knowing what you want, having a dream, having the desire, knowing exactly what it is, and then expanding that all the time. You can't say, oh, this is what I want, and then stay there for the rest of your life, because you will change, which means it changes what you want. You have to grow. If you're not growing, you're dying. So really it comes down to your ability to constantly be saying, this is what I want, and always going for more. As soon as you back off and or downplay or begin to say what you don't want, which typically, and I should go do this, where I just go out in public and ask people what they want and just record it, because I can tell you more than 90% of the time, rather than tell me what they want, they tell me what they don't want. Or they tell me of the, like it's like they tell me what they want based on terms of a bad situation, and it's like, well, that's not really, that's not really a good target to go after. Well, I want a peaceful relationship. So is it not peaceful now? Well, no. Okay, well, what if it was? Then what would you want? You got to keep going bigger. So the number one thing is going to be knowing and searching and writing and developing that desire. That you have to have that strong desire in order to go towards it. Otherwise, your focus will become what you create.
So essentially, would you say it's two people growing together?
You could say that, but that's a dangerous thing to say when you say two people, right? Because the relationship has to start with you first, right? If you don't have the relationship with yourself, you're not going to have the relationship with somebody else. And when you go two people, what happens typically is there's a bad day, and then someone blames somebody else, and the focus on what you want becomes non-relevant. And so if I say, I want a certain type of relationship, without getting into the thing of it, like, I want a relationship that grows. Now I am talking about two people, but it's not relevant to her, right? I'm saying I want to be with somebody that's willing to grow, that's willing to chase, that's willing to struggle, that's willing to deal with the hard days as much as the good days. I want a relationship where we have the best days of my life because I'm with this other person. I want that kind of relationship. I want to be able to have the best sex ever, right? Like, and it just keeps getting better. It's not like it was good once and then it's not there, which I think a lot of people exist in. No, I want it to get better and better, whether it's because of the emotional fulfillment, because I'm working on my body and it's more fun. I don't care. Maybe it's a new place. Like, there's things that I want and I desire. Takes two, right? But at the same time, what do I have to do to get myself there? So I work on my physical being. I work on my spiritual being. I work on my emotional place. I work on my money so that I can offer it as well as receive it. And so it's all about me, but it has to do with my dream and my desire of saying, this is as high as I can see. Can I go further?
I see. So the number one thing you think is really just taking care of like your energy and you putting in the work on yourself to bring it to the relationship.
Yeah, obviously the relationship you have with yourself, and I would include one thing with this. My relationship is, if I do it just me, it's a problem. If I do it me and God, it's one. And then I can actually have something healthy, because God supports me in everything, connected all the time, always listening unless I cut him off. So I've learned that when I try to do things myself, it's way more restricted. You usually wind up somewhere I don't want to be. But when I keep that door open, there it's kind of one, but it's mine. And when that is always there, open, feels good, there's no guilt, shame, or anything like that, then obviously I feel like I'm on the right path and I'm moving forward. And then I'm working on myself individually with the idea of I want to do it with someone else. But the first relationship is the one you have with yourself and the way you feel.
I love it. All right. Ready for the next question?
Yep.
Okay. What is the best way to resolve conflicts in a relationship?
Um, for that's another loaded question. Because there's like if you have an example, it's a lot easier.
Well, the next question is going to be, can you give me an example of a conflict you had in a past relationship and how it was resolved?
Yeah, the relationship doesn't exist anymore.
Oh.
That's how it was. A lot of them were resolved
Hmm.
because it wasn't the right fit. So sometimes the con a conflict is a battle of egos, or maybe a lack of knowledge, but all conflict exists with the ego. Somebody that doesn't have ego has the patience to wait, explain, educate, solve, whatever it is. All conflict is a triggered state, typically a negative triggered state. So if I have a conflict with the way a kid is being raised, right? Like for example, the only reason there's conflict is one person believes they're doing it right, and the other person believes that something else needs to happen. I could, let's say, two people are having this discussion, then I come in the middle. I have a whole nother perception on what is believed should happen. So, how do you resolve that? Well, sometimes it's logical and sometimes it's not logical. So I would say one of the best internal things to do is I just get myself so content with my life that I don't need to egotistically make a stand. And so if financially I'm secure, I have an abundance of money, I don't really need any money, then we're not going to have conflict around money, because it's like, well, maybe you want to buy something that I disagree with. Okay, like, go buy it, see what it's about, whatever. There's no reason, if I have an abundance of money, that even if I think it's stupid or a waste of money, but she's like wanting it, I'm like, okay, go find out why it's stupid. Like, why should I care? I'm content. I have more than enough. It's kind of irrelevant. Like, now I'm thinking, well, it's more for an experience. However, if I have a moral conflict or something else, it's like, okay, why is that there? Well, morally, if I am 100% secure, then I don't really need to have any kind of conflict with any of this. And also, when it comes to manifesting, and we both operate this way, is to say, I know what I want and I know where I'm going, and I'm going to go this direction, regardless of where I go or where she goes. But as long we know that as long as we keep moving towards what we want, the other person, if we stay in each other's lives, we know it's the right fit. So it's not backwards. We don't jump in and try to hang on to each other. It's like, no, no, this is where I'm going. So therefore, if you're a vibrational match, you will be with me. If you are not, you will be removed. And that's a challenging conversation for a lot of people. But morally, if I feel morally that I am moving where I need to go to the best of my ability, it's never 100%, but I'm content with my progress and my movement and everything else. And for some reason there's some type of moral conflict of something happening, it's like I can just kind of slow down and be like, this is interesting. Either there is a misunderstanding, something needs clarified, educated, something that needs done, or it's not the right fit. And so I can just be content and trusting that no matter what, I'm going the right direction. But it gives me the ability to be patient enough to actually resolve it, to figure out, is this just my internal trigger, or is she triggered, or what is happening? But that's probably the hardest conversation when it comes to relationships, is like, if there is a moral conflict, that's going to be really tough. So you really have to be secure and content in yourself, to have the space and patience to really kind of just say, okay, well, let's see what this happens. And sometimes it's shut up for the next 24 hours and just let, for me, it's like let God take care of it for a minute. And then the right conversation, the right answer, the right question will come into mind, and then it gets resolved. If it's a um like there's conflicts with what people eat, usually typically married people, kids is a big one. What people say, appearances is like one of the like, boy, that's a big conflict. How you make me appear, right? Which screams, I am so discontent with myself that you can crush me. And it's like, yeah, you should really go work on yourself, because if somebody can that easily, if my behavior, if she thinks my behavior makes her look bad, or I think that her behavior makes me look bad, how insane is that? Like, I make myself look good or bad regardless. And if I'm doing everything I want to be done, then I'm going to manifest the person in my life that fits me. Might she do something that embarrasses me once? There's a good chance, but if you know how to deal with it, then it becomes fun and entertaining and kind of one of those moments you don't forget because it's emotional, and under the parts of embarrassment or maybe shame or something for a brief moment, as long as you can get your head around it correctly. But if I ever look at her and be like, why did you do that? You shouldn't have done it. You made me look bad. I, that's not a reflection of her. That's a reflection of me. And so the personal responsibility factor in this, when you ask the question, how do you resolve conflict? Well, first, you take personal responsibility for it. Second, you get yourself as content as possible. And probably, well, I guess I should say first. Well, we already talked about it. First, you have to have the objective and the dream and the desire and all that, because that's what's going to give you the ability to know you're on the right path. But when I'm saying this is what I want, and then I know everything coming into my space is to help me get there. So therefore, I know I'm on the right path. Then it's take responsibility for everything that's coming my way so that I know that I am creating this. If I say this is what I want, I know I'm creating it. It's my responsibility that when something bad happens that I don't like, that is my creation, and I might have to do something different. Sometimes that means letting go of a relationship. Now, I don't believe in quitters. That's not what I'm talking about. And a lot of people will find a reason to justify leaving. If your reason isn't simply, we couldn't come together, like it just wasn't the fit that I was looking for, without saying a single negative word about the other person, that's really the only logical reason that you wouldn't be a fit. However, I mean, there's even times when I'm like, I think this person is amazing, but it's just not the right fit. They love this, I love this. It's in direct conflict in what's going to happen throughout our lives. Somebody wants kids and somebody that doesn't want kids. Not going to happen. I know some really amazing people. In fact, before we were dating, there were plenty of people that I talked to that were amazing. It's like they checked every box except the kid part. And I was like, we're not even going to date. Like, why would I? Why would I entertain something that I potentially want to pursue that's a no? Or like, she doesn't drink, I don't drink. At first I was kind of open to it. I was like, maybe I should just be okay. But the more time went on, I was like, why would I put myself in a position that I've never been around? Now, I've been around people that drink and everything's cool, but every single time somebody abuses drinking, it becomes a massive problem. Why would I put myself in the position for that? Like, logically, there's no reason to choose that. So I'm just went, okay, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm just going to X that out. And there goes like 99% of all people. Well, let's see, it's really easy to know what I'm manifesting. I'm looking for this. So then when somebody that doesn't drink comes into my life, it's like, well, there's an option. There's much higher possibility that this is going to work than leaving it open. But I do like the experience of kind of sometimes leaving things open when you're single to look around. But I very clearly have that. Even when I was kind of open to dating somebody that drinks, I was not open to dating a drunk or someone that goes out on a weekday or weeknight and gets plastered. It was more like someone that will sit down for dinner and have a glass of wine, not every night, but like a nice meal. Like that's what I was okay with. So when I would see people that would have their benders, it's like, yeah, that's just not gonna It's just not a fit, not going to work. So um, that just gives you some examples of different things of like choices, responsibility, being content, and gives you the ability to handle any conflict without a problem. And if you find yourself in a conflict and you find yourself triggered, you need to walk the fuck away and not focus on the problem, but focus on, why am I so discontent? You know, my marriage before got some crazy shit happened, and I wanted to blame. I did, and some of it I did blame, and some stuff I said was probably a little more than I should have said. You know, because I was so discontent with myself, and I lost all my money, which was painful. I lost my home, I lost it, like everything, and crazy shit happened. But I kept looking at it and being like, well, I just need to get content with myself. I need to fix my money. I need to fix this other stuff. I need to just, and then the more I do that, the more content I am, and the more love I have to be able to actually give to my ex. I mean, I don't really want to speak to her, but I can still be like, I wish her the best. I love her. She does not exist in my life because of the behaviors that happened. We could have been friends, could have, but the choices that were made, it was like, no, not unless you become a different type of person, period, and prove it, then I do not want to associate with anybody like that. So, but I do wish her the best. I very much wish that, and so that she could support our kids and whatever happens and everything. I always want the best for everybody, no matter what. So there's a lot to go into, and I could probably talk for 3 weeks straight on it, but
That was so good. It was. I really feel like the more like I grow, the less conflict there really is in my life. So I think the way that you answered it was just, it was so good. It's like number one, you said know what you want,
Yep.
right? So when you know what you want, get clear on what you want. Number two, you said take personal responsibility. And three, get content with yourself.
Yeah.
So grow, keep growing, keep getting better.
Which is part of that responsibility, because it forces you to say, this situation that I would call conflict was of my creation.
And I would say, like, add into there too, which, just observe, which is like know what you want. And if it's not a fit or isn't right, something that just can't come to a resolution,
Yeah.
then you just move on and say,
Yeah. I'll kind of add a tool, I guess, into that
yeah.
says most people aren't going to operate at this level. Just the average person doesn't have this much training. You're here trying to figure out how to deal with a conflict. So it's like, yeah, go figure out what you want. Start taking personal responsibility. But let's say you're like, no, I have a conflict right now that I need to deal with. And in fact, I've had several conflicts, several days in a row, all day long. That's where you're at. And I've been there. So one of the reasons why I've gotten here is because I was there, and then I took responsibility, and then I changed it. And when you're dealing with a conflict, the first thing you should do is shut up, because you cannot think clearly when you're trying to speak. It's like you have 2 ears, one mouth, use them proportionately, but in a conflict, no, use your ears.
Have you heard the quote that says, like, when emotion is high, logic is low?
Well, I have heard that quote. When someone is in a triggered state, there is no winning. There is only trying to feed the trigger.
So you said, just when you're in conflict, just first shut your mouth.
Shut up. And the only way you're going to shut up is to really, like, you might shut up out of spite, right? Like, whatever. But then your mind spins on the problem. When I say shut your mouth, it's also turn your mind off from directing all the energy towards the other person. This is where the responsibility comes into play. This person just pissed me off. Somehow I created this. What's going on? So I got to zip it, walk away, and start solving my problem, not theirs.
Turn inward.
Yeah. but without being the victim.
Mhm.
Most people, well, they did this, I did this, they did this, I did this. It's finger pointing the whole time, right? Which means point your finger, there's three fingers pointing back at you, right? So the it's can be very challenging though, and if you're in the place of there's this conflict happening, there's something happening where there's this major clash and everything else. Here's my question. Okay, well, what's your desire and your dream? If you can't answer that clearly with like precision to some degree and cause me to feel what you feel, why are you asking me the question of how do I resolve this conflict? And why do you keep telling the story of what this other person's doing to you or what you believe is right? Because it negates all of it. If you don't have that answer, shut the fuck up and go get the answer. Everything else is just emotional bullshit that where you're trying to feed your ego and just spin out and look fancy. Whatever. It's that simple. So you go, okay, you have a problem. Okay, well, what's your dream? What's your desire? Well, I want to, I want a peaceful relationship. I'm not talking about based on the situation. I'm talking about ultimately. Let's say you have a peaceful relationship. Now what? Now what? Okay, peaceful. I want more money. Okay, great. You have money. You've got a peaceful relationship. Everything's doing great. What else do you want? Like, if you can't answer those questions, and all of a sudden you find yourself in conflict, you now know what to do. Walk the fuck away and start writing your lists. Go over here and start going, what do I want? What's this? What's that? Now, again, I've been there. I've been in those situations trying to write this stuff down, trying to get clear on it, and having to get more pissed off, more aggressive at writing the stuff down because I keep going back to it, keep going back to it. And even when the day that I knew that my relationship, my marriage was over, right? By I can't remember for sure, but I'm pretty sure by the end of the day, I was sitting down writing a new list. It was like, okay, this changes things. What do I want? And I started writing physical attributes that I wanted. I started writing emotional attributes that I wanted. I started writing, things I wanted to experience. I just started writing, and by doing that, I'm internally causing a feeling inside, and that feeling is what's going to manifest and create what I wanted. See, because three years before, I said, this is what I want. I want an amazing freaking marriage. I want to be able to do this with my wife. I want to do these things and everything else, right? Like I was determined. There was like no way I was not going to make this happen. And she removed herself because she was not the right fit. Perfect. Keep going. Now what? This changes the game. Right, right, right. And just keep doing that. So you want to deal with conflict? Let me see. Let me see your dreams and your desires. Show them to me. And if you can't get there, well, then maybe you should reach out to us. Be in our Zoom membership, to where I can actually ask those direct questions where you think you have this great idea of like, oh yeah, this is what I want and everything else. And then you tell it to me. And this happens often. Somebody starts telling me their dreams and everything. And I'm like, whoa, hold up. What's this mean? That's bullshit. Get that out of here. What about this? And it's like instantly I'm catching things that are like in conflict with their dreams. Like you can't say this with that energy and have it mean this. And it's never going to be perfect. Please understand that when I tear something down, it's not because you're trying to get perfect. It's because you made it to there. My questioning lifts you up. So it's not a beat down. It's actually a lift up. It's a, okay, good. Okay, awesome. You got to here. You got some shit written out. Like, okay, perfect. Oh, but here, let's elevate your dreams. Let me elevate your dreams by challenging this story. Remove it out. Your energy moves up. Your energy moves up. Now you're manifesting at a higher level. So resolve conflict. Tell me your dreams.
That was so good.
Yeah.
Okay, I loved that answer so much. Let's see. How much time have we gone?
We've gone quite a while. Maybe we should move
Okay.
it to the
I'm
next.
gonna skip a lot of my questions for now, and
We'll do another one.
well, I'm just gonna go to the very last question.
Okay.
Okay, one more question. Why do you think our relationship works? And you can answer it however you want.
Um, ye- hmm. Outside, so we're talking outside of what I already discussed, the dreams and the.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I
I mean, she's
mean,
got like a 20-page relationship dream desire, 20 pages, right? Mine's shorter, but very intense with what I want, very, very clear to the message that is also very open. But why does ours work? I mean, it really comes down to what I just said. I mean, our willingness, on the positive side, we stay focused on what we want. We are driven forward. We just are relentless at the pursuit of love, joy, and happiness, and constantly look that direction. And also we're connected with God, and we continue to work on that connection. On let's say the more negative side is, and it's not really, I don't know if I want to say negative, but some people might pursue it this way, is we're willing to take massive risks, and in the sense of, um, put the relationship on the line, right? So like, let's say there was something that came up where we didn't agree with it, and both of us, if it did happen, we would just come out and say, listen, this is actually a deal breaker. And if it was, and she says, well, I'm going this way, and I'm like, I'm not going that way, it would be over. And that is a thought that most people cannot emotionally handle, even the conversation around. And it's something that we have to think about, and we don't know for sure. I mean, we've almost known each other close to a year. I know quite a bit about her, right? But what if there's a sleeping skeleton in the closet? Like, what if something comes up? That there's still a possibility that something happens. And if you don't have the big enough dream to go after, when it comes up, you'll stay. And then you'll self-sacrifice, and then you'll have resentment, discontent, which is the opposite of being content. So then you have destruction, absolute destruction. So, and let me give you an example of this. When I was 19, met a girl, like, first time in my life where I actually like went, oh, I'm not gonna bullshit or play games. I'd played games before, and it was just like, this is like, it's fun, like playing a sport, and that's what it was. It was a sport. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to know what love is. And so I went all in, and I fell in love and everything else. And then she was not emotionally fit. And there was some girl that flirted with me. I responded back to her, sarcastically, and she caught a side view. And well, I'll just tell you what it was. This girl like pinched my nipple, and I did this towards hers, but there was a side view, and it looked like I grabbed her, but I didn't. It was just like a reaction, a reflex to be like, you're gonna do that to me, I'm gonna do it to you, but I didn't actually touch her. She saw the side view, gets pissed because she'd been cheated on, leaves, goes off. We were drinking, goes and screws somebody, right? I'm already in love. Like, and it's the first time I've experienced this. I've never thought about it at this point, anything else. I don't find out till a month or two later of this happening. Well, I stayed because I was in love. I had a fear of loss of love, and then I tried to solve it, which then caused more conflict. And then she did it again, and then the third time I was like, I told you, like, we're done, and that ended it. But it took a lot for me to be like, I just cannot do this, and then it still crushed me. So, and then I had to rebuild and figure out all these things, because by then now I had a dream of where I wanted to go, even though I wound up going down before coming back up. So that's one of those things where I stayed in something that I should have left, even though loving someone is amazing, and all the different things with that. Like, there's a point when you have to have the emotional strength for yourself. Your relationship with yourself is the most important, that says, I do not stand for this, and so I have to walk away. And those conversations, to put it on the line, to collide with the person you love, to collide with the life you built, to collide with you having a home, money, all of those things, at the risk of losing it all, is not easy. And the only way you can do it is with that dream. That's the only way. I've, that was the first one. And then after that, I had an 8 year plus relationship that wound up, it's kind of not the same, but I didn't get cheated on. It just like, it was good, but then it wasn't. And I stayed there for probably 6 years too long. But I'm not saying it wasn't good. It was good for me because it was a learning process. My marriage, same thing. I went into that marriage, I became a much, much better person. And then once I changed to being more of like who I love more than ever in my life, she had to go. She wasn't a fit anymore. I quit playing those games. And when I started saying, no, this is what I'm gonna do. And even though throughout that marriage, I think one of the reasons it worked was because I was the one putting the foot down and saying, no, if this is a deal breaker for you, I'm out. And then she would find a way to make it work instead of just saying, I'm out. And so we kind of did that, but I still solved a lot of problems through that. So I'm very blessed to have that experience. I'm very blessed to have loved many, many different people. So I don't want to get off and, say anything negative about that stuff or anything else. It's all blessings. But why does it work? One, the dream, right? Our desire, what we're going for, and on the opposite of that, our willingness to take that risk. And sometimes it's like you get triggered or something happens, and it's like I don't like this, and you bring it up, and it's like I don't want to deal with this ever again. And then we kind of figure out, well, it's partly us, and partly the discussion needs to be had, and because of the ability to not be in conflict but be in understanding and patience, and it's more like it becomes an education. And when you educate, you can actually move, right? You don't stay in the same place. I'm not talking about like education in school. I'm talking about learning. And there's things that when I was younger, if you told me, I would have, that like maybe I would challenge something. Oh, you can't do that. That's not like I wouldn't do that. And now I'm like, it's irrelevant. It's so minuscule to how things works. It doesn't matter to me. So you're fine, whatever. But there are certainly things that do come up that are like, I don't like the way this feels. Why don't I like the way this feels? And then I check it internally, have a conversation, comes to a conclusion, everything's perfect. And because we have the dream, the desire connected to God, and willingness to take risks at any cost, there's a feeling that we get. And there's this feeling that sometimes when something isn't quite the way we want it to feel and it's disconnected or anything else, we can still check and be like, but we need to keep moving forward. We don't end it here. We just need to get clarity. And for some reason, this feeling says, stay here, right? Because I don't know if I'm seeing what I'm seeing or if I'm seeing things through a triggered state. And the reason why we're coaches in this arena is because most people come to us in a triggered state saying this person did this to me, and we can see clearly and say, maybe look at this. And then they start to look at it, and then over time, and then pretty soon they quit blaming the other person, and things begin to work better, more efficient, more fluid, more, and et cetera, et cetera. So I mean, if you're going to take a couple things away, take away the dream and the desire, the personal responsibility, always saying, if you find yourself discontent, ask the question, why am I not content? Not why am I discontent? It's a little specific here. Why am I not content? Because the objective is not to be not discontent. The objective is to get yourself to where you are super content. So if you have a money issue, if you have a moral issue, a financial issue, no, I said money, like a physical issue, okay, those different things. Why is this causing a problem for you? I've I've been in a place where I thought it was a physical issue, where I was discontent with somebody else's physical issue. It was actually a moral issue. That was the actual problem.
Mm.
And it was the lack of ability to keep commitments. And that's where my blame went to the physical, but it was actually the lies of not keeping commitments. So there's things there, and it's like, okay, well, am I keeping my commitments? Well, not really to myself. Because when I looked at the situation, I'd say, would I choose this right now? If I was single, my money was good, my health was good, my all this was good. If I was single, would I choose this? Hell no. So why did I choose it to get to here? And that collision, right? Like let's say I start getting fat and out of shape, and she's like, this doesn't feel good anymore. And she's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you have a belly. Like, this is some bullshit here. If she feels that, I want her to be able to say that. And you know, a lot of people, they feel bad, they don't want to talk about it, and so they'll start poking and they'll start jabbing the bear and be like, or they'll just try to change the diet, or they'll do these different things rather than just stop, sit down and be like, hey, we need to have a talk. And it's emotional, high intensity, but somebody that's secure and content with themselves, we can have those discussions. And yeah, it feels like shit, but we don't get defensive. We don't get to, it's not like, well, what do you mean? Well, maybe if I wasn't working so hard, well, maybe if you weren't spending my money, well, you know what, all these defensive things, it's just absolute bullshit. It's like, shut the fuck up. Like, if she just told me there's a problem, I should listen. Otherwise, my relationship's going out the window. Because if I don't have the conversation to say what's going on here, is it actually the weight thing? Is it this? And why would I be there in the first place? Like, I would have to be discontent with myself at that point. So the conversation has nothing to do with her. She's just making me double aware. I'm aware. She's now making me aware. On top of that, I feel like shit, so I want to attack. But the reality is just like, okay, shit, I gotta change something. And that's where it's the personal responsibility part, right? Keeping that window open, that door open to say this is what it is and everything else, and then doing something about it. And it's not like it's not going to happen. These different things are going to happen, whether it's a weight thing, a moral thing, a money thing, or whatever. But my goal here is to continue elevating each one and building certainty, security, and safety while having the most joy in my life that I can. Right. And hers is probably similar, but probably has more to do with love, I would say. Right. Like feeling more love. Mine's joy, hers is love right now. So, right.
Yeah, that's great.
So I could keep talking, but we'll just, I hope this kind of paints a pretty obvious high level view that says all of your little shitty problems that you're having, if you want to address them, first, figure out the dream and the desire. That's the first thing to do. And if you haven't done that, shut up and go do that. Stop trying to have a conversation with everybody. Stop trying to do this. I mean, yeah, we need to be heard. Yeah, we need fulfillment. Yeah, we need connection. But stop getting your fucking connection through fighting. There's an emotional connection that happens there, and you get addicted to it. And now you have a habit, and the addiction feeds it. An emotional connection is more addictive than any of the substances we put in our bodies. And a lot of times that emotional connection leads to the substances we put in our bodies, like alcohol, drinking, smoking, drugs, or food. Food's a big one. Sugar is a big one. And sugar just makes it worse. Like the behaviors and the thoughts that happen in your mind with drinking, especially, and sugars is a big one. And they're kind of like the same. Is your mind wants to go to darker places when you have that stuff in your system. It's a vibrational frequency that keeps you down and will get you chasing more sedation. And people think it's biological. It's yeah, there's a biological effect, but there's actually an energetic effect that will make you chase more alcohol, more pornography, more immoral decisions by putting that stuff in your body. And so if you find yourself doing some stuff that you don't even approve of, might be able to take a little edge off of that if you just can find a way to get that, keep from putting that in your body. So.
Well, I think that was great.
Okay.
Thank you for answering the questions. So good. Should we end it?
Anything you want to add to it?
I mean, I'm just like, my mind is blown every time I listen to you speak. Like, seriously, you were putting tears to my eyes. So it was good. Good job.
I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, look forward to the next one.
Bye.